Ever feel like life is always throwing you curveballs, one after another? Well, today we're diving deep into building resilience, specifically the kind of resilience that helps you knock those curveballs right out of the park.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're taking a deep dive into strong by habit, resilient habits. And trust me, this book is full of strategies you can actually use, put into practice.
Yeah, I have to say, the title itself is intriguing. What is it about the book that really stood out to you?
It's how the book changes how we think about resilience. It's not about being some kind of superhero.
Right. It's not like you wake up one day and bam, you're resilient.
Exactly. It's much more about building specific skills, the skills to navigate those tough times we all face. Life has a way of throwing us into rough waters, and this book gives you tools to, well, not just survive, but thrive.
I love that analogy of rough waters. It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? I mean, who hasn't felt lost at sea at some point? The book actually uses the example of a ship where our habits are like the sails. They're what propel us forward, even when the wind changes.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Our habits are the sails. That's a powerful image.
Right. And just like a good sailor adjusts their sails, we have to adapt. We need to change our course, especially when life throws us those curveballs, those unexpected challenges.
Absolutely. Because life definitely doesn't always go according to plan. And it's that ability to adapt, to adjust, that defines how resilient we are.
And that's one of the biggest takeaways for me, resilience. It's not something you're born with, it's a skill, something you develop.
And that's so empowering. It means we're not stuck,
Right.
right? We can actually become more resilient over time.
Exactly. And it made me think of something Gonzalo Estrada, the author, talks about. He shares his own story of being diagnosed with diabetes.
Wow. That's a significant life event. How did he approach it?
Well, instead of letting it define him, he used it. It became the source of, I don't know, fuel to learn, to grow. He even became a source of support for other people going through the same thing.
That's incredible. It speaks to the human spirit, doesn't it? Turning a challenge into a catalyst for growth.
It really does, and it ties into one of the book's core messages. Small wins, big impact. It's not about making these huge changes overnight. It's those consistent small steps that make the real difference over time.
It's easy to get caught up in thinking we need to make these massive leaps to see progress, but that's rarely how it works, is it?
No, not at all. It can feel really overwhelming. And this idea of small wins, it totally changed how I think about goals. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress, however small. Think about a recent goal you achieved. Did it feel huge at first?
Oh, for sure. Like climbing a mountain.
Exactly. But breaking it down, focusing on those smaller steps, those small wins are what make the journey possible.
And don't forget, each small win gives you this little dopamine boost, keeps you motivated to keep going.
It's true. It's like our brains are wired to celebrate those little victories.
It's like those little nudges we need to stay on track. Speaking of staying on track, think about James Gyson, the inventor of that bagless vacuum cleaner. He went through over 5,000 failed prototypes.
Wait, are you serious? 5,000?
Over 5,000 prototypes before he finally got it right. Can you imagine?
That's incredible. Talk about persistence.
Right. Imagine if he'd given up after the first 100, or even the first 1,000. It makes you think about all those successful people out there. They've all faced setbacks, haven't they?
They have. It's part of the journey. And it's learning to see those setbacks not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones. That makes all the difference.
And speaking of stepping stones, the book goes deep into building those specific habits that support resilience.
Like what? Give me an example.
One that really hit home for me was the power of routine. It sounds kind of, I don't know, basic. But even those simple routines can make a huge impact when life gets challenging.
I used to resist routines like they were the enemy of creativity or something. But then I realized they actually free up mental energy. My morning routine, that's my secret weapon.
Really? How so?
It's like when your brain doesn't have to waste energy on all those little decisions, you have more energy left over for life, especially when things get unpredictable.
It's like building that mental framework, right?
Yeah.
So you're not caught off guard.
Exactly. Speaking of frameworks, it reminds me of something I read about Haruki Murakami, the author.
Yeah, Norwegian Wood,
Mm-hmm.
Kafka on the Shore.
He's amazing.
He's so prolific, and he's super disciplined, apparently. Like, he attributes his writing productivity to having a strict daily routine.
Interesting. There's something to be said for structure, isn't there? Especially when it comes to creativity.
It's like having that solid foundation, that inner stability. so you can weather any storm that comes your way.
That's a great way to put it. Weathering the storm. And you know what else helps with weathering those storms? Mental toughness. Okay, but I have to stop you there. Because when I hear mental toughness, I immediately picture a drill sergeant yelling at people.
Right. It's not about that at all. It's not about being hard on yourself. It's more about cultivating your inner strength, building that inner fortress that helps you persevere when things get rough.
Okay, now that makes more sense.
Yeah.
How do you build that inner fortress, though?
Well, the book talks about some really practical tools like visualization and self-affirmation. And I know those can sound a little woo-woo, but they can be really powerful.
So, visualization. Am I picturing myself winning a marathon or something?
Well, it could be that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more about creating a mental picture, a movie in your mind, where you see yourself successfully handling a challenge. And self-affirmation. It's about using positive self-talk, reminding yourself of your strengths.
Okay, so it's about shifting your mindset, really. Believing in yourself.
You got it. And here's the thing. These techniques, they're not just some new age trend. There's actual neuroscience behind them.
Seriously, tell me more.
The book uses this incredible story of David Goggins. Have you heard of him?
David Goggins, the ultra-marathon runner. I think so.
Yeah, him. He overcame some unbelievable obstacles, mostly through sheer mental strength.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's an amazing example of how powerful our minds really are. It shows us just how much our mindset influences our ability to overcome challenges.
Right. It makes you think twice about that whole mind over matter saying. It's like Estrada says in the book, our minds are incredibly powerful tools. We can train them to help us, or they can work against us. The choice is ours.
I love that. It puts the power back in our hands, doesn't it? It highlights how interconnected our mental and physical well-being truly are.
They're so intertwined, aren't they? Like you can't really have one without the other.
Exactly. And cultivating mental toughness is essential for resilience, but so is taking care of ourselves physically.
Right. Getting enough sleep, eating well, moving our bodies, those things all factor in.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that our bodies are the vessels we use to navigate life. If we treat them well, they're better equipped to handle whatever comes our way.
I'm with you on that. Taking care of our physical health is like laying the groundwork for resilience. And it's not just about our physical and mental strength either, right? We also draw strength from our connections with others.
Absolutely. Our relationships, they're crucial. They provide stability and support, especially during those inevitable storms life throws our way. The book really emphasizes that.
Like a safety net or maybe an anchor.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I always think about Nelson Mandela. During his imprisonment, his relationships were essential.
Oh, absolutely. Not just for his own well-being, but for what was going on in South Africa at the time.
Exactly. For everyone. It's a powerful reminder that we don't have to go through challenges alone. There's strength in numbers,
Yeah.
in knowing you have people you can lean on. It makes all the difference.
It's true. Having that support system can make all the difference in the world. It's like that African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
And sometimes, building resilience also means letting go. Letting go of the things we can't control no matter how much we want to.
That's tough. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? To let go?
It does, but it's crucial. Clinging to something you can't change, it can really hold you back, make it harder to adapt and move forward.
It's like trying to control the weather, isn't it?
Right. You can't control the wind or the rain, but you can learn to adapt. You can dress for it. And sometimes that's what resilience is, adapting. The book talks about Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, of course. Everyone knows Eat, Pray, Love.
Well, after that book became a huge success, she had this immense pressure to replicate it.
Right. To write Eat, Pray, Love Part 2, 3, and 4.
Exactly. And instead of getting caught up in that, she made a choice. She decided to let go of those expectations.
That's brave.
And guess what? She went on to embrace all kinds of new creative projects.
Wow. It reminds us that sometimes the bravest thing, the most resilient thing, is to let go, to surrender to how life unfolds. Like a surfer riding a wave. You can't control the wave, but you can learn to ride it.
Love that analogy. It's about finding that inner balance, that ability to ride the waves instead of letting them crash over you. And that ties directly into adaptability, which is like having a strong rudder on our ship.
So instead of resisting change, it's about learning to navigate it, to adjust our sails and find a new course when we need to.
Exactly. Precisely. And just like someone who's been sailing for years, they know how to read the wind, they adjust their course. Adaptability is kind of like that. It's about knowing when to shift gears and how to respond when things change. Michael Jordan's career is a great example of this. He could just kept playing the same way as he got older, but he didn't. He adapted, he changed his game, and he continued to do well, even moving into that whole business world later on.
He's such a legend. It shows that being adaptable isn't about giving up on what you want to achieve. It's about finding different paths to get there, right?
100%. It's about being resourceful, finding new ways to reach your goals.
You know what I really liked with the book? Estrada included all these stories from people about their experiences with resilience. He calls it echoes of experience.
Oh, I love that. Real stories from real people. That's always powerful.
It really brought everything to life, made it so much more relatable.
Definitely. Because let's face it, resilience isn't some abstract idea. It's about how we show up in our everyday lives.
Exactly. It's what we do, not just what we think.
Right. It's in those everyday moments that we see true resilience shine through. Like there's just this one story, I don't know if you remember it, about the parent who promised their kid they'd run a marathon.
Oh, yeah. That one was amazing. What determination.
This promise, it became their driving force, pushed them to overcome their doubts, those limitations they had put on themselves. And they did it.
It's incredible how making a promise, like that act of committing to something bigger than yourself, can unlock that inner strength.
It's true. It's like tapping into a hidden reserve of power. And for this parent, it wasn't even just about running the marathon. It was about showing their child what's possible, the legacy we create through our actions.
Absolutely. It's like those ripples spreading out and impacting others in ways we can't even imagine. Inspiring. What was another story that stood out to you?
There was this one about an entrepreneur. This person faced setback after setback. You name it. Bad economies, partnerships that fell apart. They'd probably heard it all. But what struck me was their belief. This unwavering belief in themselves, what they were doing.
That's so important, that self-belief.
It's everything. This person just kept bouncing back. Each experience, it became a lesson. And eventually they built this thriving business.
I love that. It makes you realize those setbacks, they're going to happen. But it's how we choose to respond that really matters. We can use them as fuel to learn, grow, come back even stronger.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's like that saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8.
I love that.
And something Estrada emphasizes is that we don't have to go through those falls alone.
It takes a village, right?
Exactly. Having a support system is so important. It's like having a safety net, someone to catch you when you fall.
He uses this term, resilience partner. That person, or maybe it's a group, that you can lean on. They're there to encourage you, keep you accountable, and just listen when you need to vent.
Sometimes just having that listening ear makes all the difference in the world.
Having that support can really make all the difference in the world. It's like having a co-pilot on your journey, someone to help you navigate those bumpy rides and celebrate the wins, big or small.
It makes you realize that asking for help, it's not a weakness. It takes strength to reach out when you need it.
It's true. We're not meant to do this life thing alone. And speaking of support, I thought it was really insightful how Estrada talked about self-compassion.
Oh, that's huge. Being kind to ourselves, it's so important, especially when we're struggling.
Right. But it's easy to be hard on ourselves, isn't it? Like we should be handling everything perfectly. But it's about treating ourselves with the same kindness we'd offer a friend.
Absolutely. And recognizing that we're all works in progress, We're all going to mess up sometimes. That's just part of being human. It doesn't make us any less worthy or resilient.
It's about giving ourselves permission to be imperfect, to have those off days without feeling like a total failure.
We have to be our own cheerleaders sometimes.
We do. And you know what? Part of being a good cheerleader for ourselves is knowing when to call for backup. Like when we need extra support. Remember that quick guide for common challenges we mentioned?
Oh, yeah. It's like a toolkit full of strategies to deal with all those everyday struggles.
Right, like dealing with procrastination or managing stress. It even talks about dealing with guilt, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, for sure. Guilt is a big one. It's easy to get stuck in that cycle of blaming ourselves, especially when we feel like we're not living up to our potential.
Like we're letting ourselves, or maybe even others, down.
Exactly. But that guide, it reminds us that we're all human. We're not perfect. And it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
It's all about giving ourselves a break, right? Recognizing that we're doing the best we can with what we've got.
And sometimes our best looks different every day. It's about accepting that.
One of the things I found really empowering was the idea of a growth mindset, that our abilities, they're not fixed. We can always develop and improve.
Oh, it's so key. It reminded me of Carol Dweck's work. She's the one who really popularized that term, growth mindset.
She's amazing. And it's not just about believing we can get better. It's about seeing challenges as opportunities to learn, to
Or
grow from.
it's about embracing those failures, not as setbacks, but as feedback. Valuable lessons that help us refine our skills.
It's about becoming lifelong learners, always seeking out new knowledge, new skills, new experiences.
Yes, it's about constantly evolving and being open to new perspectives, challenging those assumptions we all have, realizing there's always something new to discover.
Which reminds me, there's another aspect of resilience we haven't touched on yet. Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. It's more than just a buzzword, isn't it? It's about being present, like really present.
Exactly. Paying attention to what's happening right now. Our thoughts, our feelings, what's going on in our bodies, without judging ourselves.
And the amazing thing is there's actual science that backs this up. Mindfulness can change our brains, strengthening the areas that help us regulate our emotions.
So it's not just some fluffy feel-good practice. It has real benefits.
It's like strength training for your mind.
It makes you think about how often we're stuck in the past or worrying about the future, right? When we're caught up like that, it's hard to be present to appreciate what's happening in this moment.
It's true. And when we're not fully present, it's so easy to miss out. We might make impulsive decisions or let stress get the best of us. Mindfulness helps us to slow down, to create space between our thoughts and our reactions.
It's like hitting the pause button, right?
Yes, it gives us the power to choose our response instead of just reacting automatically.
It's like taking control of the ship instead of letting it sail on autopilot. And it makes me think about setting boundaries, which is another important theme in the book.
Oh, boundaries. Those are so important, especially these days. We're constantly bombarded with information and demands.
It's true. And it's easy to feel overwhelmed and overcommitted. Setting boundaries is about protecting our time and energy, making sure we have space to rest, recharge, and do those things that bring us joy.
It's not selfish either. It's about self-preservation. And it takes practice, but it's so worth it.
It is. And it's about communicating those boundaries to others, too, whether it's at work, in our relationships, or even with ourselves.
Yes. We've got to set those boundaries with ourselves too, like limiting how much news we watch or making sure we're taking time for self-care.
It's about knowing our limits, what we can realistically handle.
And respecting those limits.
Exactly. And sometimes setting those boundaries means embracing those parts of life that aren't always glamorous. You know what I mean? Like doing the dishes even when you'd rather be doing something else.
It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when we don't feel like it.
It reminds me of Estrada's message, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yes. Sometimes building resilience means doing the things we don't want to do.
It's like pushing through those moments of doubt. Those times when you question if it's even worth it. I think we've all been there. But those are often the moments that lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
Absolutely. Think about it. We rarely grow when we're comfortable. It's when we push ourselves beyond those self-imposed limits that we discover how strong and resilient we truly are. And that's the thing about resilience. It's a journey, not a destination.
And I like how the book gives you tools to keep growing. Like Estrada suggests other books to read, workshops to check out. He even talks about ways to get involved in your community.
It's about continuing to learn and grow throughout our lives.
It is. And it's not just about us either. It's about sharing what we learn with others.
Exactly. Supporting each other along the way.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's resonating with you the most?
There are so many good takeaways here. It's hard to choose just one.
What's one habit you're feeling inspired to cultivate, to strengthen your own resilience? What will it be?
Will it be embracing those small wins, cultivating that growth mindset, or maybe prioritizing self-compassion? There are so many possibilities.
And remember, like Estrada says, the book can provide the map, but you're the one who chooses the path. And whatever challenges life throws your way, you've got the power within you to adjust your sails, steady the ship, and navigate towards those calmer waters. You've got this.
We all do. Keep exploring, keep growing, and never underestimate that incredible ability you have to bounce back, because you are capable of amazing things. It's true. Growth rarely happens in our comfort zones, does it? It's when we challenge ourselves, push past those self-imposed limits, that we discover our true strength and resilience. And remember, resilience isn't a destination, it's a lifelong journey.
It's a journey. And I love how the book doesn't just leave you hanging with all these concepts, It's not like, good luck, you're on your own now. Estrada actually provides a roadmap for continued growth.
Oh, that's great. What kind of stuff does he suggest?
Well, he's got suggestions for further reading, workshops you can check out. He even talks about ways to get involved in your community.
I love that. It's about taking action, putting what you're learning into practice.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, here are the tools, now go build your strongest self. And it's not just about individual growth either. It's about sharing what we learn, becoming a source of support and inspiration for others. Paying it forward.
It's that ripple effect again, right? Our resilience can have such a positive impact on the people around us.
Absolutely. It's like we can inspire each other to face those challenges with a little more courage, a little more grace.
So true. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's resonating with you? What's one habit you're ready to commit to? Something to strengthen your own resilience.
Ooh, that's a good question. It's like Estrada says, the book can give you the map, but you choose the path.
Love that. What will your path be?
Will you choose to embrace those small wins? Maybe focus on cultivating a growth mindset or prioritize self-compassion? The choice is yours.
It is. The power is in your hands.
And remember, no matter what storms come your way, you have the strength within you to adjust your sails, steady the ship, and navigate toward those calmer waters.
You've got this.
We all do. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.